Black lady returned after 9 years not alone, with a child who looks exactly like the Korean CEO. The boardroom went silent the moment Nairobi Kaling walked through the glass doors. Not the polite silence of respect. The suffocating silence of ghosts materializing in broad daylight. She hadn't changed much, still carried herself like storm winds trapped in elegant clothing, still had those eyes that could dissect a balance sheet or a lie with equal precision. But it was the small hand clutching hers that made the oxygen disappear from the room. The child couldn't have been more than 8 years old, with skin like warm honey and eyes that every single person in that conference room recognized. Those eyes belonged to Jin-Soo Park, their CEO. The man currently frozen at the head of the table, knuckles white against the mahogany edge. The little boy had his exact face, just softer. Younger. Undeniable. "Hello, Jin-Soo," Nairobi said, her voice carrying the kind of calm that comes before avalanches. "We need to talk about our son." "Hey beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here, oh, you picked one heck of a story to start with. I'm so glad you're here. Drop a comment right now and tell me where in the world you're watching from. I love connecting with you all. New York? Lagos? Seoul? Mumbai? Let me know. How are you doing today? Really, I hope you're taking care of yourself, drinking water, protecting your peace. And listen, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are we even doing here? Hit that subscribe button because trust me, you don't want to miss how the story unfolds. This one's got more twists than a pretzel factory, and I promise you, by the end, your heart is going to be so full. Now, back to Nairobi and the bomb she just dropped. 9 years. She had been gone for 9 years, and Jin-Soo had spent approximately 3,285 days trying to forget her. He'd failed spectacularly at it, but he'd at least mastered the art of pretending. Built an empire that stretched across 3 continents. Dated appropriate women from appropriate families. Smiled for business magazines. And now she stood 15 feet away with living, breathing evidence that forgetting had been pointless all along. "Security," someone started, but Jin-Soo raised one hand, cutting off his chief operating officer mid-sentence. "Everyone out." His voice came out steady. A miracle, considering his heart was trying to jackhammer through his ribs. "Sir, the merger presentation." Out. The room emptied in 45 seconds. Executives gathered their tablets and dignity, avoiding eye contact with either Nairobi or their shell-shocked CEO. The door clicked shut with terrible finality. Nairobi didn't move. Didn't flinch. She'd always had this infuriating ability to stand absolutely still while the world combusted around her. The boy, their son, apparently, Jesus Christ, pressed closer to her leg, suddenly shy now that the audience had disappeared. He wore tiny sneakers that lit up when he shifted his weight. One backpack strap had a small stuffed tiger dangling from it. Jin-Soo couldn't breathe properly. "His name is Kai," Nairobi said quietly. "Kai Benjamin Kaling. He likes dinosaurs, hates vegetables except corn, and he can beat most adults at chess. He's brilliant, Jin-Soo. And he's yours. 9 years." The words scraped out of him like rusted metal. "You've had 9 years to tell me I had a son, and you chose today? You chose to walk into my boardroom like a woman who's out of options?" Her chin lifted, that old defiance flickering to life. "Yes. Exactly like that." She moved then, settling into one of the leather chairs with the kind of exhausted grace that spoke of sleepless nights and impossible choices. Kai climbed into the seat beside her, legs swinging above the floor, taking in the floor-to-ceiling windows with wide eyes. "Mama said you own this whole building," Kai said suddenly, looking at Jin-Soo with unnerving directness. "She said you're important." Jin-Soo's throat closed up entirely. Important. He owned 12 buildings actually, across 5 countries. Had 4,300 employees. His signature moved markets. And none of it, not one goddamn piece of it, mattered as much as the fact that this child existed and he'd known nothing about it. Why now? He managed. Nairobi's jaw tightened. For the first time, he saw past the armor to the fear underneath. Real, bone-deep terror flickering in those dark eyes. Because someone found us, she whispered. And because running is only going to get Kai killed. The words landed like bullets. Outside the windows, Seoul sprawled in afternoon sunlight, oblivious and beautiful. Inside this room, Jin-Soo felt his carefully constructed world tilt sideways. He looked at the boy, at Kai, really looked at him. Saw his own childhood face reflected back with Nairobi's smile softening the edges. Saw the way the kid's fingers drummed against his knee, the same restless pattern Jin-Soo's own hands made during difficult negotiations. 9 years of this child's life. Birthday candles and scraped knees and bedtime stories. Gone. Stolen. Start from the beginning, Jin-Soo said, his voice dropping into that dangerous quiet his competitors had learned to fear. And Nairobi? Don't you dare lie to me again. She met his gaze, and something old and wounded and still somehow alive passed between them. I've never lied to you, Jin-Soo, she said softly. I disappeared to protect him. There's a difference. Then tell me who I need to destroy to keep my son safe. Our son, something in her expression corrected, but she didn't say it aloud. She didn't have to. The moment those words left Jin-Soo's mouth, my son, everything changed. You could feel it in the air, thick and crackling like the seconds before lightning strikes. Kai looked up at him with those impossible eyes, and Jin-Soo felt the foundation of his entire existence crack wide open. Who was hunting them? Why had Nairobi really disappeared 9 years ago? And what kind of danger could force a woman who'd rather die than ask for help to walk back into the life of the man she'd abandoned? Nairobi had forgotten how intense Jin-Soo's focus could be when he wanted answers. Actually, that was a lie. She hadn't forgotten anything about him, not the way his jaw tightened when he was processing information, not the precise way he folded his hands on the table when negotiating, not the single strand of hair that fell across his forehead when he leaned forward. She'd spent 9 years trying to forget and failed every single day. His name is David Chen, she began, watching Jin-Soo's expression carefully. He is a pharmaceutical executive. I met him in Geneva, about 6 months before I left Seoul. Jin-Soo's eyes narrowed. Before you left. Before you disappeared without a word, you mean? The accusation stung because it was fair. She'd vanished like smoke, one day working beside him as his director of international acquisitions, laughing over late-night strategy sessions and stolen kisses in his office, and the next day just gone. No note. No explanation. Nothing except her letter of resignation emailed at 3 a.m. and a disconnected phone number. I found out I was pregnant, Nairobi continued, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands beneath the table. And 2 days later, I discovered what David Chen was really doing. Kai had pulled out a small tablet from his backpack, headphones already in, absorbed in some educational game about marine biology. He'd gotten good at making himself invisible when adults needed to talk about scary things. Too good. No 8-year-old should be that practiced at disappearing into themselves. Jin-Soo noticed. Of course he did. She watched his gaze linger on their son, something painful and protective flickering across his features. What was Chen doing? Jin-Soo asked, but his attention was split, half on her, half on cataloging every detail of the child he'd just learned existed. Trafficking experimental drugs through shell companies across Southeast Asia. Medications that hadn't passed safety trials. Some that had actively failed them. Nairobi's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. I stumbled onto the paperwork by accident. I was doing due diligence on a potential acquisition target, and the numbers didn't make sense. When I dug deeper. She trailed off, remembering that night. The cold Geneva hotel room. The spreadsheets that told a story of greed and calculated human suffering. The moment she realized she'd attracted the attention of someone truly dangerous. You ran, Jin-Soo said quietly. I ran, she confirmed. Because I was pregnant with your child, Jin-Soo, and David Chen had already made it clear what happened to people who knew too much about his operation. 2 of his former accountants died in accidents within 6 months of each other. I wasn't going to be number 3, and I sure as hell wasn't going to let our baby become collateral damage. Jin-Soo stood abruptly, moving to the windows. Seoul stretched out below, all glass and steel and controlled ambition. His kingdom. She'd loved and resented this view in equal measure during their relationship, the way the city looked so orderly from up here, so manageable, when real life was always messier than Jin-Soo wanted it to be. You could have told me, he said, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. I would have protected you. Protected both of you. Would you? Nairobi stood too, needing to make him understand. Jin-Soo, your family was already breathing down your neck about our relationship. Your mother sent me 3 separate messages suggesting I was unsuitable for the Park family legacy. Your board members made it clear they thought you were compromising the company's image by dating your employee, a black woman, no less. And that was before I got pregnant. His shoulders stiffened. Truth always did hit harder than lies. If I'd stayed, if I'd told you. She moved closer, close enough to see the muscle jumping in his jaw. You would have insisted on doing the honorable thing. Marriage. Public acknowledgement. And David Chen would have found me in a heartbeat because you're Jin-Soo Park. You can't sneeze without it making the business section. Every detail of your life is documented, photographed, analyzed. So you chose to let me think you just left. That I meant nothing. The rawness in his voice cracked something inside her chest. I chose to keep our son alive, she whispered. Even if it meant you hated me. Silence stretched between them, heavy with 9 years of misunderstanding and hurt. Kai pulled out one earbud. Mama? I'm hungry. Just like that, the tension shattered. Nairobi watched Jin-Soo's expression transform as he turned toward Kai, the corporate armor falling away to reveal something vulnerable and utterly lost underneath. There's a cafe downstairs, Jin-Soo said, his voice gentler than she'd heard it in almost a decade. They make good sandwiches. And hot chocolate. Kai's eyes lit up. With marshmallows? As many as you want. The smile that broke across their son's face was pure sunshine, and Nairobi watched Jin-Soo's heart visibly break and rebuild itself in the same moment. This was what she'd stolen from him. These smiles. These small moments of joy. If you're feeling these emotions with me, drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have run like Nairobi, or stayed and fought? I want to hear your thoughts. Jin-Soo made a call, quick, efficient, in Korean. Within minutes, his executive assistant appeared with a bag from the building's premium cafe. She was professional enough not to stare at Kai, but Nairobi caught the woman's double take, the quick calculation happening behind her eyes. By tomorrow morning, rumors would be spreading through the company like wildfire. Jin-Soo didn't seem to care. He unpacked the food himself, turkey sandwich cut into triangles, apple slices, a container of hot chocolate topped with a mountain of marshmallows that made Kai gasp with delight. Say thank you, Nairobi prompted gently. Thank you, Mr. Park, Kai said solemnly. Jin-Soo, he corrected, then hesitated. The weight of everything unsaid hung in the air. Call me Dad. I'm your father. I've missed 8 years of your life and I don't even know your favorite color. But he didn't say any of it. Instead, he just watched Kai eat with an expression that made Nairobi's throat tighten. He has your appetite, Jin-Soo murmured. I remember you could put away an entire pizza after acquisitions meetings. Despite everything, Nairobi almost smiled. He has your stubbornness. Once he decides something, good luck changing his mind. I wonder where he could have possibly gotten that. The corner of Jin-Soo's mouth twitched. For just a second, it felt like old times. Before everything got complicated. Before she'd had to choose between the man she loved and the child she carried. The moment didn't last. You said someone found you, Jin-Soo said, the warmth evaporating from his voice. Chen? Nairobi nodded, pulling out her phone. She opened it to a photo, a blurry shot taken from her apartment window 3 days ago. A man in a dark jacket, standing across the street, watching her building. She'd recognized the posture immediately. Chen's people. She'd spent 9 years learning to identify them. London, Paris, Bangkok, Cape Town, we've moved 17 times in 9 years, she said quietly, making sure Kai couldn't hear. He was absorbed in his sandwich, blissfully unaware. We'd stay somewhere for 6 months, maybe a year if we were lucky, and then I'd spot one of his surveillance teams. We'd disappear in the middle of the night and start over. Jin-Soo took the phone, studying the image with the analytical precision that made him so formidable in business. Why does he want you so badly? It's been 9 years. Whatever evidence you had. I testified, Nairobi interrupted. Anonymously, to Interpol, about 4 years ago. I thought enough time had passed, that I could finally do something about what he'd done. The investigation went nowhere. Chen has too many connections, too much money buying silence, but he figured out it was me who talked. Jesus, Nairobi. After that, the surveillance got serious. More aggressive. 2 months ago, someone broke into our apartment in Cape Town while we were at school and work. Didn't take anything. Just left things moved. Rearranged. A message. She wrapped her arms around herself, remembering the ice-cold terror of walking into her home and knowing someone had been there. Had stood in Kai's bedroom. Had touched his things. We ran again. But I'm out of money, out of places to hide, and out of tricks. She met Jin-Soo's gaze directly. You're the only person I know with the resources to actually protect him. Your security, your connections, your power, Jin-Soo finished. You need my power. It sounded calculated when he said it like that. Mercenary. But she couldn't deny it. I need you to keep our son safe, she corrected. Everything else is secondary. Jin-Soo studied her for a long moment, and she wondered what he saw. The woman who'd walked away from him without explanation, or the mother desperate enough to face her worst fear, his rejection, to protect their child. You'll stay at my penthouse, he said finally. Both of you. 24-hour security, controlled access. I'll have my team. Jin-Soo. This isn't negotiable, Nairobi. His voice carried that edge of absolute authority that had always made her want to simultaneously argue and surrender. You came here asking for my help. This is what help looks like. Kai looked up, chocolate mustache adorning his upper lip. Are we staying with Jin-Soo, Mama? The hope in his voice nearly destroyed her. He was so tired of running. So tired of temporary apartments and new schools and making friends he'd have to abandon in 6 months. For a little while, Nairobi said carefully. We'll see, Jin-Soo said at the same time, his eyes never leaving hers. The unspoken message was clear, you're not running from me again. Not this time. An hour later, Nairobi found herself in the back of Jin-Soo's private car, sleek black, bulletproof glass, the kind of vehicle that screamed wealth and power. Kai sat between them, chattering about the buildings they passed, blissfully unaware of the tension crackling in the air. Jin-Soo had made 6 phone calls during the elevator ride down. She'd only understood half of them, his rapid-fire Korean was rusty in her ears, but she caught enough. Security teams. Background checks. Someone named Yuna who was apparently his head of corporate security. The man worked fast. She'd forgotten that too. How quickly he could mobilize resources when he decided something was important. You're important, a traitorous voice whispered in her mind. You always were. She shut it down. This wasn't about them. Whatever they'd had 9 years ago was dead and buried. This was about Kai. Only Kai. Does he go to school? Jin-Soo asked suddenly. Homeschooled, Nairobi answered. Too risky otherwise. I've been teaching him, and we do online programs for structure. He needs friends. Socialization. He needs to stay alive, she shot back, then immediately regretted the sharpness when Kai looked up worriedly. Jin-Soo's expression softened. He'll have both. I promise. The car pulled up to a building that made their previous destination look modest. 47 floors of architectural ambition, all dark glass and modern lines. The penthouse, Nairobi realized with a sinking feeling. Of course. Whoa, Kai breathed, pressing his face to the window. Is this where you live? Yes, Jin-Soo said. Then, carefully, like he was testing out new words, and where you'll be staying. There's a game room on the 45th floor. And a pool. An indoor pool? And an outdoor one on the roof. Kai looked at Nairobi with eyes so full of wonder and hope that she had to look away. When had her baby last been allowed to just be a kid? To have space to run and play without her constantly watching for threats? What have I done to him? She thought. What kind of childhood has he had because of my choices? Jin-Soo's hand, warm and solid, touched her shoulder briefly. So quick she might have imagined it. But the gesture said what his words couldn't. We'll fix this. Together. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. The penthouse was obscene. Nairobi had known Jin-Soo was wealthy. Hell, she'd helped negotiate half the deals that built his empire, but this was different. This was wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars, and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. Kai's gasp echoed through the massive space. Mama, there's a staircase inside the house. It leads to the private rooms upstairs, Jin-Soo explained, and Nairobi caught something uncertain in his voice. He was nervous. Jin-Soo Park, who negotiated billion-dollar mergers without blinking, was nervous about whether an 8-year-old would like his home. Despite everything, her heart cracked a little. You'll have your own room, Jin-Soo continued, addressing Kai directly. We can set it up however you want. Whatever you need. Can I have glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling? Kai asked. Mama always says we can't put them up because we might have to leave soon. The silence that followed was devastating. Jin-Soo crouched down, bringing himself to Kai's eye level. The movement was awkward, this man who commanded boardrooms with a gesture, suddenly uncertain about how to talk to his own child. You can have all the stars you want, he said quietly. You're not leaving. Not anymore. Kai looked at Nairobi, seeking permission to believe in something permanent for once in his short life. She managed a nod, throat too tight for words. Before we get you settled, Jin-Soo said, standing, there's someone I need you to meet. She'll be here any minute. As if summoned, the private elevator chimed. The doors opened to reveal a woman in her mid-30s, sharp-featured and radiating the kind of competence that came from handling impossible situations daily. She wore tactical clothing disguised as business casual, and Nairobi recognized the telltale bulge of a concealed weapon. Security. Serious security. Yuna, Jin-Soo said. This is Nairobi Kaling and her son, Kai. They'll be staying here indefinitely. Full protective detail, complete background sweep on anyone who's come within 50 feet of them in the last 6 months, and I want a threat assessment on David Chin by tomorrow morning. Yuna's expression didn't change, but her eyes, dark, calculating, swept over Nairobi and Kai with professional assessment. Understood. I'll need to conduct interviews with Ms. Kaling about. Later, Jin-Soo interrupted. Kai needs to get settled first. Something passed between them, a conversation and glances that spoke of years of working together. Yuna nodded, then surprised Nairobi by softening her expression when she looked at Kai. I have a nephew about your age, she said in perfect English. He loves dinosaurs too. She'd noticed the small plastic T-Rex clipped to Kai's backpack. Kai brightened. What's his favorite? Mine's the Spinosaurus because everyone always picks T-Rex but Spinosaurus was actually bigger and could swim, Yuna finished, a genuine smile breaking through her professional mask. Jaewon would love to meet you. Maybe you could come over sometime? Really? Kai looked at Nairobi with desperate hope. A playdate. Such a normal, simple thing that had been impossible for years. We'll see, Nairobi managed. Yuna's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her entire demeanor shifted, shoulders tensing, eyes sharpening. Sir, we need to talk. Privately. Jin-Soo caught the tone immediately. Nairobi, why don't you take Kai upstairs? Second door on the left. There should be some basic supplies, and I'll have more brought in within the hour. She wanted to argue, to demand to know what was happening, but Kai was already tugging her toward the stairs, exhausted and overwhelmed and desperately needing some semblance of normalcy. Come on, Mama. I want to see my room. She let herself be pulled away, but not before catching Jin-Soo's expression. Whatever Yuna had just received, it wasn't good news. The room was bigger than their entire last apartment. Kai explored every corner with the methodical focus he applied to everything, testing the softness of the bed, examining the empty bookshelves, discovering the attached bathroom with its rainfall shower. He was trying so hard to act normal, to not show how scared he'd been these last few weeks. Nairobi sat on the edge of the bed, watching him, feeling the weight of 9 years of decisions pressing down on her shoulders. Mama? Kai climbed up beside her, his small body fitting perfectly against her side like it always had. Is Jin-Soo really my dad? Her breath caught. They'd had this conversation before, in age-appropriate versions. She'd told him his father was someone important who didn't know about him, who she'd had to leave to keep Kai safe. But she'd never used a name. Never made it real. Yes, baby. He is. Is he mad at you? For not telling him about me? Too perceptive. Always too perceptive. He's processing, Nairobi said carefully. It's a lot of information all at once. Do you think he'll like me? The question shattered her. Oh, Kai. Baby, he already loves you. I could see it in his eyes. But he doesn't know me yet. Sometimes love happens before knowing, she whispered, pressing a kiss to his hair. Like how I loved you before you were even born. Kai was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then, are we safe now? She wanted to say yes. Wanted to promise him that all the running was over, that they could finally stop looking over their shoulders. But 9 years of survival instincts wouldn't let her lie. We're safer than we've been in a long time, she said instead. Jin-Soo is very powerful. And he'll protect us. Because of you? Because he still loves you? Nairobi's heart stuttered. What makes you think? The way he looks at you, Kai said simply. Like you're the answer to a question he's been asking for a really long time. 8 years old, and he could already read people better than most adults. It's complicated, sweetheart. Grown-up complicated or actually complicated? Despite everything, she smiled. Both. A knock on the door interrupted them. Jin-Soo stood in the doorway, and the expression on his face made Nairobi's stomach drop. Kai, would you mind playing on your tablet for a few minutes? Jin-Soo asked gently. I need to talk to your mom. Kai looked between them, then nodded solemnly. Too used to being excluded from scary conversations. Jin-Soo waited until Kai had his headphones on and was absorbed in his game before speaking. When he did, his voice was low and controlled, the tone he used when delivering catastrophic news to the board. David Chen landed in Seoul 4 hours ago. The world tilted sideways. That's impossible, Nairobi whispered. How did he? We were so careful, I made sure no one followed us from the airport. You were careful, Jin-Soo agreed. But he wasn't tracking you. He held out his phone, showing her a news article from a European business publication dated 3 days ago. He was tracking me. The article was about Park Industries' latest acquisition in Geneva. A pharmaceutical company. The same city where she'd first encountered David Chen 9 years ago. The merger announcement went public last week, Jin-Soo continued, his jaw tight. Chen has been monitoring my company's activities. He must have put it together, Geneva, pharmaceuticals, the timing. He knows about our past relationship. He's known for years, probably. He's been waiting for you to surface. And I led him straight to you, Nairobi breathed. God, Jin-Soo, I'm so sorry, I didn't think. No. He stepped closer, his hands grasping her shoulders firmly. You were out of options. You did exactly what you should have done. This is not your fault. He's here because of me. If something happens to you, to your company. Let him come, Jin-Soo said, and there was something fierce and dangerous in his eyes. I've spent 9 years wondering what I did wrong, why you left. Now I know the truth. And now I know who took those years from me. The anger radiating off him was palpable, controlled but absolute. Yuna's coordinating with local authorities, he continued. Chen's being monitored. But Nairobi, he paused, making sure she was listening. We need to know everything. Every interaction you had with him, every piece of information you gathered, everyone who might have helped him. No more secrets. She nodded, her mind already racing through years of carefully buried memories. There's something else, Jin-Soo said, and his voice gentled slightly. My family. They're going to find out about Kai. Probably already have, my assistant isn't stupid, and the rumor mill in this company moves fast. My mother will want to meet him. Nairobi's blood turned to ice. Jin-Soo, your mother hated me when I was just your employee. Now I'm the woman who kept her grandson secret for 8 years. She'll deal with it, he interrupted firmly. This isn't negotiable. Kai is my son. That makes him a Park, whether she likes how it happened or not. And me? The question hung between them, loaded with 9 years of history and hurt. Jin-Soo's thumb brushed against her shoulder, probably unconscious, probably nothing, but it made her skin burn anyway. You stay safe, he said quietly. You stay protected. Everything else we'll figure out as we go. It wasn't an answer. Not really. But it also wasn't rejection. Before Nairobi could respond, Yuna appeared in the doorway again, her expression grim. Sir, you need to see this. Now. They followed her downstairs to where she'd set up a laptop on the dining table. Security footage played on the screen, the lobby of Jin-Soo's building, timestamp from 30 minutes ago. A man in an expensive suit walked through the entrance, spoke briefly to the security desk, then left. The video quality was crystal clear. Nairobi's entire body went cold. David Chen. Older than she remembered, gray touching his temples now, but unmistakably him. That same predatory confidence, the smile that never reached his eyes. He asked for you by name, Yuna said, looking at Jin-Soo. Said he was an old business associate wanting to reconnect. Left a card with the front desk. Jin-Soo's expression could have frozen fire. Yuna pulled up another image, a business card, photographed. Simple, elegant. David Chen's name, a Seoul hotel address, and a handwritten message. Let's discuss our mutual interests. I believe we have much to talk about regarding family matters. He knows, Nairobi whispered. About Kai. He knows, and he came here to, what? Threaten us? Make demands? To establish dominance, Jin-Soo said coldly. To show that he can get close whenever he wants. That your security, my building, my resources, none of it keeps him out if he doesn't want to be kept out. We can have him picked up, Yuna suggested. Coordinate with police, immigration. On what charges? Jin-Soo shook his head. He's a legitimate businessman as far as official records show. We move against him without concrete evidence, and we tip our hand. So what do we do? Nairobi asked, hating how her voice shook. Jin-Soo was quiet for a long moment, his strategic mind clearly working through scenarios and contingencies. We do what he doesn't expect, he finally said. We go meet him. What? Jin-Soo, that's insane. He wants to play games? Fine. Let's play. Jin-Soo's smile was sharp enough to cut. But we play on my terms, in my city, with my rules. Yuna, set up a meeting. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Neutral location, the Shilla Hotel's private conference room. I want full security, recording equipment, and legal counsel standing by. Sir, Yuna started. He came to my building. He threatened my family. Jin-Soo's voice was quiet, but absolute. He wants to discuss mutual interests? Perfect. Let's discuss exactly what happens to people who threaten Park Industries. Or my son. The possessiveness in those last two words sent shivers down Nairobi's spine. I'm coming with you, she said. Absolutely not. He's hunting me, Jin-Soo. You can't cut me out of this. I can, and I will. You're staying here with Kai where it's safe. Safe? She laughed, a bitter sound. I haven't been safe in 9 years. At least let me face the man who destroyed my life. They stood there, locked in a battle of wills that was achingly familiar. How many times had they fought like this during their relationship? Both too stubborn, too used to being in control, too damn similar for their own good. Jin-Soo broke first, his expression softening slightly. Nairobi, please. Let me handle this. Let us handle this, she countered. Together. Like we should have 9 years ago. Something painful flickered across his face. You didn't give me that choice 9 years ago. I know. Her voice cracked. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'm here now, and I'm asking, let me fight beside you. Not behind you. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they'd lost and everything still broken between them. Finally, Jin-Soo nodded. Together. But you follow my lead, and if things go sideways, you get out. Understood? Understood. Yuna looked between them, her expression unreadable. I'll make the arrangements. And sir? I'm doubling the security detail on Kai. Triple it, Jin-Soo said. And get me everything we have on David Chin. Financial records, known associates, property holdings, parking tickets, I don't care how small. I want to know every skeleton in his closet by morning. After Yuna left, Nairobi found herself alone with Jin-Soo again. The penthouse felt impossibly large and impossibly intimate all at once. You should get some rest, Jin-Soo said quietly. Tomorrow's going to be difficult. Jin-Soo. We don't have to do this now. He gestured vaguely between them. The relationship postmortem, or whatever this is. We have more important things to focus on. Do we though? The words escaped before she could stop them. Because if we're walking into a meeting with a man who spent 9 years hunting me, I'd kind of like to know where we stand. You and me. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and the intensity in his gaze made her forget how to breathe. You broke my heart, he said simply. Completely. Thoroughly. I don't know if I've forgiven you for that yet. The honesty hurt worse than anger would have. But, he continued, you gave me a son. And you kept him safe when I couldn't. When I didn't even know he existed. He paused, jaw working. I don't know what we are, Nairobi. But we're Kai's parents. That's enough for now. It should have been enough. It was more than she had any right to expect. So why did it feel like losing him all over again? The hotel conference room smelled like expensive leather and bad decisions. Nairobi sat beside Jin-Soo at the polished mahogany table, hyper-aware of the 3 security personnel stationed at strategic points around the room. Yuna stood near the door, her hand resting casually near her concealed weapon. David Chen was already waiting when they arrived. He looked exactly as she remembered, polished, controlled, with that smile that made her skin crawl. 9 years, and he hadn't changed at all. Still wore his cruelty like a well-tailored suit. Ms. Kaling, he said pleasantly, as if they were old friends catching up. You look well. Motherhood suits you. Jin-Soo's hand found hers under the table, a brief squeeze of warning or support, she couldn't tell which. Mr. Chen, she managed, proud of how steady her voice sounded. Chen's gaze shifted to Jin-Soo, assessing. And the famous Jin-Soo Park. Your acquisition of GenMed Pharmaceuticals was quite impressive. Geneva is such a small world, isn't it? Cut the pleasantries, Jin-Soo said coldly. You have 30 minutes. Talk. Chin leaned back, completely unfazed by the hostility. Very well. I'll be direct. Ms. Kaling has something that belongs to me, information she obtained illegally 9 years ago. I want it back. I gave everything to Interpol, Nairobi said. Did you? Chen's smile sharpened. I wonder. You always were thorough, Nairobi. Insurance policy type. I imagine you kept copies. Smart girl. Jin-Soo's jaw tightened. Even if she did, what makes you think she'd hand them over? Because I'm offering a trade. Chen pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the table. Your son is 8 years old. Attends online school. Allergic to penicillin. Favorite color is blue. He has a small birthmark on his left shoulder blade. Nairobi's blood turned to ice. Touch him, Jin-Soo started, half rising from his chair. I have no interest in hurting children, Chen interrupted smoothly. But I do have interest in protecting my business. The files in exchange for your safety. All of you. Permanent. Legal. I disappear from your lives forever. And we're supposed to trust you? Nairobi's voice shook with rage. You're supposed to be smart enough to recognize when you're outmatched. Chen stood, buttoning his jacket. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer expires, and I handle this my own way. He walked out, leaving them in stunned silence. Jin-Soo exploded the moment the door closed. Yuna, tell me you got everything recorded. Already sent to legal, she confirmed. But sir, it's all veiled threats. Nothing actionable. Nairobi couldn't breathe. Chen knew about Kai's birthmark. Had been close enough to obtain medical records or... He's bluffing, Jin-Soo said firmly, reading her panic. Trying to scare us. It's working, she whispered. That night, Nairobi couldn't sleep. She checked on Kai 3 times, watching his chest rise and fall, reassuring herself he was safe. The third time, she found Jin-Soo already there, standing in the doorway of Kai's room. I keep thinking about everything I missed, he said quietly. First steps. First words. Did he cry a lot as a baby? Only when he was hungry, Nairobi answered, moving to stand beside him. He was actually a happy baby. Smiled at everyone. What's his favorite food? Pizza. Extra cheese, no vegetables. Mine too, Jin-Soo said, something soft in his voice. They stood there in the darkness, watching their son sleep, and for the first time in 9 years, Nairobi felt like maybe, just maybe, they could figure this out. I have the files, she admitted suddenly. Chen was right. I kept copies. Hidden, encrypted. Insurance. Jin-Soo looked at her. Where? Safe deposit box. Singapore. Under a false name. We could use them. Build a case. Or we could trade them, Nairobi interrupted. Give him what he wants and disappear. Take Kai somewhere safe. Running again? Surviving. Jin-Soo turned to face her fully. I'm done running, Nairobi. And I think you are too. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come here. He was right. God help her, he was right. Then what do we do, she whispered. We fight, Jin-Soo said simply. But smarter than he expects. His hand brushed her cheek, tentative, testing, and Nairobi's breath caught. Jin-Soo. I'm still angry, he murmured. Still hurt. But when I saw Chen threaten our son today. His thumb traced her jawline. I realized something. I can't lose either of you. Not again. We're not a we anymore, she said, even as she leaned into his touch. Aren't we? The kiss was inevitable, 9 years of unresolved longing combusting in a single moment. His hands tangled in her hair, her fingers gripping his shirt, and for a heartbeat everything else disappeared. Then Kai stirred in his sleep, and they broke apart, breathless. "We should talk about this," Nairobi said. "Later," Jin-Soo agreed. "After we deal with Chen." But his hand found hers in the darkness, and this time, neither of them let go. Jin-Soo's phone rang at 3 a.m. He answered on the second ring, instantly alert. Nairobi watched from across the living room where neither of them had managed to sleep after that kiss. "What?" Jin-Soo's expression transformed from alert to deadly. "When? How many?" Nairobi's heart stopped. "We're on our way." He ended the call, already moving. "Get Kai. Now." "What happened?" "Chen didn't wait 48 hours. Jin-Soo's voice was ice. "He just had someone try to access my company's servers. They were looking for connections to you, employment records, security footage, everything." "Did they get anything?" "No." "But Nairobi," he grabbed her shoulders. "The hack was traced back to a location 2 blocks from here. He's not just watching anymore. He's circling." Terror flooded her veins. "Kai is safe. Yuna's already on her way up with additional security. But we need to move. All of us." "Move where?" Jin-Soo's jaw set. "My family estate. Outside the city. Private security, controlled access. It's the safest place I know." "Your mother's house?" Nairobi's voice cracked. "Jin-Soo, she'll—" "I don't care what she thinks anymore," he interrupted fiercely. "My son's life is more important than my mother's approval." 20 minutes later, they were in an armored SUV, Kai sleepy and confused in Nairobi's arms, racing through Seoul's empty streets. Jin-Soo made one phone call. In Korean. Short, clipped sentences that needed no translation. He was telling his family they were coming, and he wasn't asking permission. The Park family estate was sprawling, traditional Korean architecture mixed with modern security that probably cost more than a small country's GDP. Jin-Soo's mother stood waiting at the entrance. Mrs. Park was exactly as Nairobi remembered, elegant, cold, with eyes that could dissect your worth in a single glance. She looked at Nairobi first, then at Kai sleeping against his mother's shoulder, and something complicated flickered across her face. "Mother," Jin-Soo said formally. "This is my son, Kai. And you remember Nairobi?" The silence stretched like broken glass. "Bring them inside," Mrs. Park said finally, in accented English. "We will talk after the child sleeps." It wasn't warmth. But it wasn't rejection either. An hour later, Kai was settled in a guest room with security stationed outside. Nairobi sat across from Mrs. Park in an elegant sitting room while Jin-Soo stood between them like a barrier. 8 years, Mrs. Park said quietly. "You kept my grandson hidden for 8 years. "I kept him alive," Nairobi countered, finding her spine. "From a man who would have used him as leverage or worse." "And you did not trust my son to protect you both?" The question hit harder than expected. "I trusted him to try," Nairobi said carefully. "I didn't trust the world around him." "Your world?" "The scrutiny, the publicity, the racism?" Mrs. Park's expression was unreadable. "You think I do not know what my son would have faced? What you faced working for this family?" Nairobi blinked, thrown. "I was not kind to you," Mrs. Park continued. "I wanted someone suitable for my son. Someone who would not complicate his path." She paused, looking at Jin-Soo. "I was wrong. You ran to protect my grandson. Perhaps that makes you more suitable than I realized." Jin-Soo looked as stunned as Nairobi felt. "But now you are here," Mrs. Park said, steel returning to her voice. "And this man, this Chen, he threatens my family. So we will end him. Together." "Mother," Jin-Soo started. "You think I built nothing before you were born?" Mrs. Park's smile was sharp. "You think your father's empire came from his brilliance alone?" I know people, Jin-Soo. People who handle problems that lawyers cannot. Nairobi's eyes widened. Are you suggesting? I am suggesting nothing, Mrs. Park interrupted smoothly. I am stating that my grandson will be safe. Whatever it requires. A knock interrupted them. Yuna entered, her face pale. We have a problem. Chen just released a statement to the press. She held up her tablet. He's claiming Jin-Soo is harboring a fugitive wanted for corporate espionage. He's filed a lawsuit and contacted immigration authorities. What? Nairobi gasped. Jin-Soo grabbed the tablet, reading rapidly. His expression darkened with every line. He's turning this public, he said. Making it impossible for us to move quietly. Then we move loudly, Mrs. Park said. Jin-Soo, call a press conference. Tomorrow morning. Mother, we can't. You will announce that Kai is your son. You will claim your family. Publicly. Mrs. Park's eyes glinted. Let Chen try to attack a Park heir. Let him try to make you choose between your child and your company. The world will see who the real villain is. Nairobi's hands trembled. That will put a target on Kai's back. That target already exists, Jin-Soo said quietly, understanding dawning in his eyes. But if we control the narrative, we control the game, Mrs. Park finished. This is our country. Our home. Our family. Mr. Chen made a mistake coming here. Jin-Soo looked at Nairobi. It's your choice. But mother's right, we're out of quiet options. Nairobi thought of Kai sleeping upstairs. Of 9 years running. Of that kiss in the darkness and the feeling of finally not being alone. Do it, she whispered. Tell the world. Jin-Soo nodded, then pulled out his phone. But before he could dial, the lights went out. Every single one. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing the room in red. Alarms screamed. And through the windows, Nairobi saw figures moving across the estate grounds. We're under attack, Yuna said, weapon already drawn. Kai, Nairobi was running before anyone could stop her. Jin-Soo was right behind her, and for the first time since she'd returned, they moved as one unit, two parents willing to burn the world down to protect their child. They burst into Kai's room to find it empty. The window was open. And on the pillow lay a single business card with a handwritten note. 48 hours was generous. I've decided to collect now. Come alone, or the boy pays for your mistakes. Nairobi's scream shattered the night. Nairobi couldn't breathe. The empty bed. The open window. Her baby, gone. No. No. She was tearing through the room, checking the closet, under the bed, anywhere Kai might be hiding because he had to be hiding. This couldn't be real. Nairobi. Jin-Soo's hands caught her shoulders. His face was white, but his voice stayed steady. We'll find him. I swear to God, we'll find him. Yuna was already on her phone, barking orders. Lock down the estate. Pull all security footage from the last hour. Get me satellite imaging of the surrounding area. He has my son. Nairobi's voice broke. That monster has my baby and... Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. A video file. Jin-Soo grabbed it first, pressing play with shaking hands. Kai appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a car. He wasn't crying, too brave, too used to being scared, but his eyes were wide with terror. Mama? His small voice shattered them both. The man says you have something he wants. He says if you give it to him, I can come home. The camera shifted to show David Chen's face. The files, Ms. Kaling. Singapore Bank, Safe Deposit Box 4772. You have 2 hours to retrieve them and bring them to the address I'm sending. Come alone. Both of you. He smiled. Or I send the boy back in pieces. The video ended. Nairobi collapsed. Actual Ly collapsed, her legs giving out, a sound coming from her throat that didn't sound human. Jin-Soo caught her before she hit the floor. We give him what he wants, she gasped. The files, everything, I don't care. He'll kill you both anyway, Mrs. Park said from the doorway, her face granite. The moment he has those files, your liabilities. I don't care. Nairobi screamed. He has my son. Our son, Jin-Soo said quietly. And we're getting him back. But not by walking into a death trap. Then how? Nairobi grabbed his shirt, shaking him. Tell me how, Jin-Soo, because I will burn this entire city down if that's what it takes. So will I, he said, and the absolute certainty in his voice cut through her panic. Yuna, can we track the video? Working on it. But sir, he's smart. Probably using relays. I don't want probably. Jin-Soo's composure finally cracked. I want my son's location. His phone buzzed. A text with an address, an abandoned warehouse near the port. It's a trap, Yuna said immediately. Of course it's a trap, Jin-Soo agreed. But we're walking into it anyway. Like hell you are, Mrs. Park snapped. You think I will let both of you die? Jin-Soo turned to his mother, and something passed between them, a lifetime of complicated love and duty and understanding. What would you do? He asked quietly. If it were me at 8 years old? Mrs. Park's composure wavered. Anything. Then you understand. Jin-Soo looked at Nairobi. Get the files. We have 2 hours. The flight to Singapore was a blur of private jets and Nairobi's heart threatening to explode from her chest. Jin-Soo held her hand the entire time, neither of them speaking because words were useless against this kind of terror. The bank appeared at dawn. Emergency access protocols. Diplomatic credentials Jin-Soo somehow produced. The safe deposit box opened. Inside, a single flash drive containing 9 years of evidence. Enough to destroy David Chen's empire. Enough to put him away forever. Enough to trade for their son's life. We could copy it, Jin-Soo said. Keep a backup. No. Nairobi's voice was dead. He'll know. He'll check. And if he even suspects we held anything back. She couldn't finish the sentence. Jin-Soo nodded, pocketing the drive. They were in the air again within the hour, racing back to Seoul as the deadline ticked closer. The warehouse looked exactly like every nightmare Nairobi had ever had. Dark. Isolated. The kind of place bodies disappeared. Security teams are in position, Yuna said through their earpieces. 2 blocks out. On your signal. No, Jin-Soo interrupted. He said alone. We go alone. Sir. He has my son, Yuna. I'm not risking it. They walked in together, Nairobi and Jin-Soo, and it felt like walking into their own graves. Chen stood in the center of the empty space, immaculate as always. And beside him, looking so small and terrified, was Kai. Mama. Kai tried to run, but Chen's hand clamped on his shoulder. The files first, Chen said pleasantly. Jin-Soo held up the flash drive. Let him go. I'm not an idiot, Mr. Park. You could have copied those. How do I know? Because if you hurt him, there is no country on this planet you could hide in, Jin-Soo said, his voice terrifyingly calm. I will spend every resource I have hunting you down. I will make your death last years. Something flickered in Chen's eyes. Not fear, men like him didn't fear easily, but calculation. Fine. The drive. Slide it over. Jin-Soo did. Chen picked it up, plugged it into a laptop his associate held. Examined the contents. Smiled. Well done, Ms. Kaling. Insurance policies and all. He looked at Kai. Run to your mother, boy. Kai ran. Nairobi caught him, buried her face in his hair, sobbing so hard she couldn't see. Now go, Chen said. Before I change my mind. They turned to leave, all 3 of them, together. Chen's voice stopped them cold. Oh, and Mr. Park? That pharmaceutical company you just acquired in Geneva? The one I've been embedded in for years? His smile was poisonous. Enjoy the audit. I've left you a parting gift, evidence that will tie you to my trafficking operation. By tomorrow, you'll be the one facing investigation. Jin-Soo froze. You think you won? Chen laughed. I always have contingencies. Enjoy watching your empire burn. And then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows with his men, leaving them with Kai but with everything else in ruins. The ride back to the estate was silent except for Kai's quiet crying against Nairobi's chest. Jin-Soo stared out the window, his expression unreadable, but Nairobi saw his hands trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered. Your company, everything you built, is replaceable, Jin-Soo interrupted. He's not. But the words rang hollow. They both knew what was coming, investigations, scandal, his reputation destroyed. All because of her. Mrs. Park met them at the door. She took one look at Kai and swept him into her arms without hesitation. Come, child. Let's get you fed. You are safe now. Kai went willingly, exhausted and traumatized but alive. The moment he disappeared into the kitchen, Nairobi broke down. He's going to destroy you, she sobbed. Everything you worked for, your legacy, Jin-Soo, I should never have come here. I should have kept running. Stop. Jin-Soo pulled her against him. Just stop. We have Kai. That's what matters. But your company can be rebuilt. He tilted her face up, forcing her to meet his eyes. You want to know what I learned these past few days? I spent 9 years building an empire to fill the hole you left. And it never worked. Nothing filled it. Because empires don't love you back, Nairobi. They don't look at you the way you're looking at me right now. Her breath caught. I love you, Jin-Soo said simply. I never stopped. And if loving you costs me everything else, then fine. I'll pay it. Jin-Soo. He kissed her. Deep and desperate and full of 9 years of longing. When they broke apart, Yuna was standing in the doorway with an expression Nairobi had never seen before. She was smiling. Sir, you need to see this. Now. They followed her to the study where Mrs. Park already sat with a laptop, Kai eating soup beside her. What's going on? Jin-Soo asked. Your mother, Yuna said, is brilliant. Mrs. Park's smile was terrifying. I made some calls while you were retrieving Kai. Old friends. People who remember favors owed. She turned the laptop around. News headlines scrolled across the screen. Pharmaceutical executive David Chen arrested in connection with international drug trafficking ring. Interpol coordinates multi-country raid. Evidence links Chen to decade of illegal activities. Nairobi's jaw dropped. How? The files you gave him? Mrs. Park said calmly. Yuna had already copied them before you left for Singapore. We sent everything to Interpol, the FDA, every regulatory agency across 3 continents. With Park Industries' legal team backing the evidence, they couldn't ignore it. But the evidence he planted against Jin-Soo, Nairobi started. Already discredited, Yuna interrupted. We had forensic accountants go through every transaction the moment you made the trade. Chen was sloppy, probably assumed he'd have time to cover his tracks. We documented everything, time-stamped, with metadata proving the evidence was fabricated. Jin-Soo stared at his mother. You did this in 2 hours? I told you, Mrs. Park said. I know people. And nobody threatens my grandson. Another headline appeared, Park Industries assists in major international bust, CEO Jin-Soo Park hailed as hero. We flipped the narrative, Yuna explained. You didn't just save your son, you took down a criminal empire. The press is calling you a hero. Nairobi couldn't process it. So Jin-Soo's safe? The company's safe? Better than safe, Mrs. Park said. Our stock price jumped 12%. Apparently, investors love a CEO with moral courage. Jin-Soo sat down heavily, looking shell-shocked. Kai looked up from his soup. Does this mean the bad man can't find us anymore? Never again, baby, Nairobi whispered. And we can stay here? With Jin-Soo? Jin-Soo's eyes met Nairobi's across the room. If your mother wants to. The question hung between them, heavy with possibility and hope and the chance to finally stop running. Yes, Nairobi said. We want to stay. Kai's smile could have lit the entire city. 3 weeks later, David Chen's trial dominated international headlines. Jin-Soo and Nairobi sat in the gallery, watching as prosecutors laid out 9 years of evidence, trafficking, bribery, conspiracy. The flash drive contents were damning. Irrefutable. Chen's lawyers tried everything. Nothing worked. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, 45 years minimum, Nairobi felt something release in her chest. A weight she'd carried for so long she'd forgotten what breathing felt like without it. Jin-Soo's hand found hers. It's over. It's over, she repeated, and finally believed it. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Mr. Park. Is it true you have a son? Will you be making a statement about your relationship with Ms. Kaling? Jin-Soo looked at Nairobi. She nodded. Yes, I have a son, Jin-Soo said clearly. His name is Kai, he's 8 years old, and he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. As for Ms. Kaling. He turned to her, and the cameras went crazy. She's the woman I've loved for 9 years. The woman who protected our son when I couldn't. And if she'll have me, he pulled out a small box, dropping to one knee right there on the courthouse steps. Nairobi's hands flew to her mouth. Marry me, Jin-Soo said. Not because of Kai, not because of scandal or expectation. Marry me because I can't imagine another day without you. Because you're brilliant and fierce and you make me better. Because I want to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worth the risk. Tears streamed down her face. You've always been worth the risk. Is that a yes? Yes. Yes, you impossible man, yes. The kiss was caught by 50 cameras. By morning, it would be on every news site in Asia. Nairobi didn't care. She had Jin-Soo. She had Kai. She had Safe. Everything else was just noise. 6 months later, the Park family estate was transformed. Paper lanterns hung from every tree, their soft glow mixing with strings of fairy lights that turned the gardens into something magical. Traditional Korean music blended with jazz, and the scent of jasmine filled the warm evening air. Nairobi stood in front of a full-length mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The wedding dress was a fusion, a traditional white gown with subtle Korean influences in the embroidery. Her natural hair was styled in elegant curls, adorned with tiny white flowers. She looked like someone who belonged in this world. Like someone who'd finally stopped running. You look beautiful, Mrs. Park said from the doorway. Nairobi turned, still getting used to the warmth in her future mother-in-law's eyes. Thank you. For everything. For accepting us. For accepting you? Mrs. Park moved closer, adjusting Nairobi's veil with gentle hands. You gave me my grandson. You kept him safe when the world was dangerous. You loved my son even when loving him cost you everything. Her eyes glistened. I should thank you. A knock interrupted them. Kai peeked in, looking adorable in his miniature suit. He was serving as ring bearer, a role he'd taken incredibly seriously. Mama, Jin-Soo says if you don't come soon, he's going to come get you himself. Kai grinned. He looks nervous. I told him you're definitely coming. Nairobi laughed, scooping him into a careful hug. Of course I'm coming. Ready to walk me down the aisle? Kai's chest puffed with pride. I've been practicing not dropping the rings for weeks. The ceremony was intimate, close friends, family, and a few key business associates. But what mattered was the front row where Eunice sat with her nephew Jae-won, who'd become Kai's best friend. Where Jin-Soo's father beamed with grandfatherly pride. where people who'd become family in the truest sense gathered to witness something beautiful. Jin-Soo stood at the altar, and when his eyes found Nairobi, the whole world disappeared. She walked toward him with Kai at her side, and Jin-Soo's composure finally cracked, tears streaming down his face as he watched his entire world come home to him. When they reached the altar, Kai carefully deposited the rings, then whispered loudly, "You better make my mama happy forever." Laughter rippled through the guests. "I promise," Jin-Soo said solemnly, shaking Kai's hand like they were sealing a business deal. The officiant began, but Nairobi barely heard the words. She was too focused on Jin-Soo's hands holding hers, on the way he looked at her like she was every sunrise and sunset combined. "I, Jin-Soo Park, take you, Nairobi Kaling." His voice was steady now, sure. "Not just as my wife, but as my partner, my equal, the keeper of my heart. I promise to trust you with the truth, even when it's hard. To stand beside you, not in front of you. To love our son and any children we may have with everything I am. And to never, ever let you face the darkness alone again." Nairobi's vows came through tears. "I, Nairobi Kaling, take you, Jin-Soo Park. I promise to stop running. To believe that I'm worthy of this love. To let you protect us without losing myself in the process. To build a life with you that's bigger than fear and stronger than the past. And to remind you every single day that you're the best decision I ever made, even when I was too scared to make it the first time." "The rings," the officiant prompted. Kai handed them over with exaggerated care, earning another round of laughter. Jin-Soo slid the band onto Nairobi's finger. "With this ring, I choose you. Every day. For the rest of my life." She did the same for him, her hands shaking with joy rather than fear for the first time in years. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss." Jin-Soo didn't wait for him to finish. He pulled Nairobi into his arms and kissed her like they had all the time in the world, because finally, they did. The guests erupted in applause. Kai cheered the loudest, jumping up and down with pure happiness. The reception was a blur of dancing, laughter, and toasts that made everyone cry. Mrs. Park stood to speak, her usual composure softened by champagne and emotion. "I once thought I knew what was suitable for my son. I was wrong. Nairobi taught me that suitability isn't about background or expectation, it's about courage. About loving fiercely enough to sacrifice everything, including your own happiness, to protect those you love. She is more than suitable. She is extraordinary. Welcome to our family, daughter." Yuna's toast was shorter but equally moving. "To the woman who ran for 9 years and the man stubborn enough to wait. May your future be as bright as your love is strong." When it was Jin-Soo's turn, he stood with his arm around Nairobi's waist, looking out at the gathered faces. 9 years ago, I lost something precious and didn't know why. I built an empire trying to fill that void. But empires are just buildings and contracts. They don't laugh at your jokes or challenge your assumptions. They don't make you better just by existing in your orbit." He looked down at Nairobi. "She does. She and Kai are my real empire. Everything else is just scenery." He raised his glass. "To new beginnings. To family. To the love that was worth waiting for." "To love," the guests echoed. Nairobi couldn't stop smiling. Her cheeks hurt from it. Later, as the party wound down and Kai fell asleep on his grandmother's lap, Jin-Soo pulled Nairobi onto the dance floor one last time. They swayed together under the lanterns, the music soft and sweet. "Happy?" Jin-Soo murmured against her hair. Deliriously, Nairobi whispered back. "Scared, too." "Is that weird?" Terrified, Jin-Soo admitted. "What if I mess this up? What if?" She pulled back to look at him. "Then we'll fix it. Together. That's what we do now. No more running. No more handling things alone. Together," he agreed, sealing it with a kiss. Across the garden, Kai stirred awake long enough to see his parents dancing, his grandmother's arms secure around him, and smile before drifting back to sleep. For the first time in his 8 years, he didn't dream about running. He dreamed about home. Epilogue. 2 years later, the Park household was beautifully chaotic. Kai, now 10, was teaching his baby sister, 9-month-old Zara, the names of dinosaurs. She mostly just giggled and grabbed at his hair, but he didn't mind. Nairobi had just been promoted to COO of Park Industries, making headlines as one of the youngest executives in the company's history. She worked from home 3 days a week, refusing to miss bedtimes. Jin-Soo had mellowed in ways his board members found alarming and his family found miraculous. He left meetings early for school plays. He took Saturdays completely off. He smiled more. Mrs. Park had become the doting grandmother everyone feared she'd never be, spoiling Kai and Zara with equal enthusiasm and teaching them Korean phrases that made Jin-Soo laugh. And Nairobi? She'd finally learned what it felt like to sleep through the night without fear. One evening, after the kids were in bed, she found Jin-Soo on their bedroom balcony, looking out over the city. "Penny for your thoughts," she asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "Just thinking about how different life is now," he said. 2 years ago, I didn't know Kai existed. Now I can't imagine life without him. Without Zara. Without you. Regrets? Not a single one. He turned to face her, his smile soft. Well, maybe one. I wish I'd had those 9 years. Wish I'd been there for his first steps, his first words. His first temper tantrum? Nairobi teased. His terrible twos that lasted until he was 4? The time he decided to paint the walls with spaghetti sauce? Jin-Soo laughed. Okay, maybe I don't regret missing everything. She grew serious. I'm sorry. For those years. For the time we lost. Hey. He cupped her face gently. We found our way back. That's what matters. And now we have forever to make new memories. Forever, Nairobi repeated, the word no longer scary. From inside, they heard Kai calling. Dad. Zara threw up on Mr. Whiskers. Mr. Whiskers was the stuffed tiger that had survived 9 years of running and was now Zara's favorite chew toy. Jin-Soo groaned. Parenting is glamorous. You want to handle it, or should I? Together, he suggested. Always together, Nairobi agreed. They walked inside hand in hand, toward the chaos and mess and beautiful normalcy of their life. Nairobi had spent 9 years running from danger. But she'd finally learned that the scariest thing she'd ever done, coming back, asking for help, opening her heart again, had led to everything worth having. Love. Family. Home. And she'd never run from that again. The end. I'm not crying, you're crying. Loudly crying face red heart. Did this story wreck you in the best way? Comment below and tell me your favorite moment. Was it the proposal? Mrs. Park's redemption? That first kiss? I want to hear everything. And listen, if you made it this far and you're still not subscribed, I'm personally offended. Face with tears of joy, hit that subscribe button so you never miss these emotional roller coasters. Drop a like if this story touched your heart. Share it with someone who needs a good cry and a happy ending. Thank you for being here, for reading, for letting me take you on this journey. You beautiful souls are the reason I do this. Until the next story, take care of yourselves, protect your peace, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop running and let yourself be loved. Red Heart. Where are you watching from? Drop your location below. I love seeing how far these stories travel.